He is also member Corporate Management Committee. An alumnus of IIT Kanpur, Mr. Rangras joined ITC fresh from campus 38 plus years ago and has spent his entire career with the organization. He has spent the first 27 years of his career with the tobacco division in various leadership roles in both technical and HR functions. Thereafter, for over a decade, he has led the India Leaf Tobacco Division and the Agri-Business Division of ITC as its COO and then Chief Executive. He has been instrumental in setting up sustainability, supply chain, process excellence, and digital cells within the division. Mr. Rangras has also been the man behind the setting up of world-class, state-of-the-art greenfield factories for ITC. Each of these facilities are equipped with contemporary technologies, sophisticated processes, and quality controls. Some other interesting facts about Mr. Rangras. He is a sports enthusiast with interests in lawn tennis, golf, and soccer. He is passionate about biking and is a proud member of the Harley's Owners Group. Mr. Rangras has been on the board of governors of IIM Shillong and on the board of Pan IIT Alumni Association of India. Welcome, Mr. Rangras, to the ITC Masterclass. I also would like to extend a very warm welcome to Mr. R. Raghuraman, who is the head of ITC's Supply Chain Strategy Vertical. He will also be the moderator for today's session. Thank you, Mr. Raghuraman, for being here with us today. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to Abhinav Shukla, Assistant Manager, New Growth Drivers, Once Supply Chain Project, who will also be moderating the session along with Mr. Raghuraman. Thanks for being with us today, Abhinav. Please join me once again in welcoming Mr. Sanjeev Rangras to anchor today's session. Over to you, sir.
Hey, thank you, Marian. I hope I am visible and audible to everyone. So I would, first of all, like to extend a warm welcome to all of you, and I hope that in these tough times, you people are keeping very safe. And I'm sure most of you are operating from your own houses as the new normal suggests. Even I am working from the office in a small location called Guntur, but most of my time is spent working from home. So we are all learning new ways of interacting with you. So this is perhaps the only session which I've had with 20 plus colleges. I've been going for pre-placement talks for 3 decades, but this is perhaps the first talk that I'm doing with you people, which is over this medium. And I've never talked to so many of you. I've had 500 people in the hall, but this is well beyond that. So go easy on me. There are too many of you. I can't take all of you on. So one by one, so be easy on me. And the only thing that I'm hoping, since I'm from ITC, I have to do a small pitch for my company. I hope that as you're watching me and you're taking notes, that you have a classmate book with you, or pen, and you're eating some good bingo chips and some Yippee noodles. And I hope you're not, using products of some other companies who come all the way from other parts of the world. So I'm not an expert in supply chain, but I'm well supported by people like Raghu and Abhinav Shukla. So I've had some exciting journey in the last 2 years of being given an opportunity to try and streamline this entire thing for ITC. So my biggest challenge today is that I've got 2 years of work to be put across in 40-50 minutes to you people. And I have to get across to several of you who are from HR, from marketing, from technical, and some of you who may not have understood or understand the intricacies of this subject. So I've simplified it. A 1,000-slide presentation has been converted to a 15-20 slide presentation for you, right? So we made it simple. My objective today is that you people are my consumers. So being ITC and the core value of ITC being customer focus, so you are the focus for me, whether you're from XLRI or from an IIT or from SCMHRD, my focus is that you people should walk out having understood what we have gone about. I'm not expecting you to understand the intricacies of this thing, but the whole idea is to be able to appreciate how companies like us take such steps and how do we go about implementing certain complex projects. So there are several issues beyond technical, so that perhaps if I'm not able to address today in the 40 minutes, I am willing to have a separate class with people who are interested to be able to answer some questions to those people who are deeply interested in this subject. So very simply put, what is the purpose of any such initiative which any organization takes? Very simple. The objective is you take the lemon and try and squeeze out everything. You people, some of you have seen sugarcane juice. Have you seen how the person squeezes this thing on and on? That is the objective. So if there is money in the system, how can we bring about saving? That's the fundamental thing of whether you do supply chain or any other cost initiative. So I'm going to make a short presentation to you people, and there may be some delays in the thing getting presented, but don't mind, I'm going to wait for some time till the whole thing gets presented. So folks, this is the first slide, and I'm going to move on to the presentation. So I'm going to pause slightly because each one of you is on a different system and I have to reach out to my customers. I have to be patient. So I will wait for the slide to change. So I'm going to.
Sir, I would just interrupt here, Marianne. If you could allow us 1 minute till it comes up on the screen, sir. Just about 40 seconds, not even a minute.
All right, I will wait. So Marianne is there to wrap me on the knuckles moment I go off track.
Thank you, sir. It's visible.
It's visible, right. Is the first slide which is visible?
Yes, the first slide is visible.
So my bike is visible. That is more important than any other class. Okay, good. So I'm on to my first slide of the presentation, which is about the presentation schema. So I'm going to talk about ITC Transportation and Logistics Snapshot. It's a complicated organization we run, right? So for people who don't understand ITC, like Tata's has several companies, we have several divisions. We have only one ITC, and we have about 13 separate businesses which run under it. So you have to understand it's a single company with multiple divisions, very different from other organizations. So we have Nestle in it, we have Britannia in it, we have various companies all in one. So that's a mega company called ITC. So I'm going to talk about what is this entire scenario of transportation logistics. What do you mean by that? Why do we say it is complex, which is in my second one? Why is it so difficult to do it? What is the opportunity which we saw, and what use cases and some of the learnings that we walked out with, right? I will talk about the money, right? So there is about 100 to 150 crores of savings possible in such things. So I'm going to quickly move on to the first part about ITC transportation and logistics. So folks, this is our business portfolio. You got cigarettes, you got foods, you got personal care, you got education, you got safety matches, you got incense sticks. These are things which you use before your NSEMs. A lot of people use incense sticks and safety matches to pray. Several of those of you have not got time to study before your end semester exams. This is a very good way to utilize ITC products. So there are hotels, there's paper boards, paper and packaging, there's agribusiness, information technology. For some of you who don't know, in the GDP of any country, there are three sectors. ITC is one of those rare companies which straddles all three sectors: agri, manufacturing, and services. So we straddle all three sectors. That's the beauty, is end to end. So when people talk farm to fork or plate to plow, the only company which comes to your mind is ITC. So let's talk about what is the need for driving synergies across ITC. ITC is 13 companies in one. So see, there are new trends coming in and we are getting complex. So if you really see in the last few years, if I really see ITC, in 90s when I was with ITC, there were only 7 products that we were dealing with. I deal with 200 such. I deal with 1600 SKUs. It is a hugely complex organization, right? Industry disruptions are happening. Blockchain, IoT, so many things are happening, Industry 4.0. And don't forget, whether it is ITC or others, we have super competitors. You can add Geo to it. These are people who are coming who will disrupt your market. If you're not sharp, if you're not smart, they'll come and disrupt you, and they don't care two hoots. So folks, it's a bad, bloody world outside. So every organization, including ITC, has to keep rejuvenating itself, has to keep re-energizing and reimagining our entire set that we have. And we keep learning every day, and a lot of ideas which come from you people. So our transportation and logistics spend when I started the project about 2 years ago was about 1,700 crores. Folks, this is larger than most transportation companies in India. So it's a large business to be in. Okay, I could very well run my own transportation company. So it covers all these sectors. You will realize the complexity of this. Cigarettes require a separate transportation. Chips require separate. Chips is 80% air in those packets, right? I'm transporting not chips. I'm not transporting potato chips, but I'm transporting air. So you cannot be transporting it across India because you'll be transporting air. So each food item, if you look at ITC's frozen foods, requires a different chain altogether, requires refrigeration right along. Packaging requires separate. Lifestyle retailing requires something different. Personal care is different. Paper boards is different. So every single business has its own unique requirement of transportation. That is what makes the whole thing so exciting and challenging for us. So look at this, 1650 crores, 350 warehouses, 200 factories. No other organization runs so many factories. The whole idea is when you think of us, we should be able to reach you in no time. Every state will have a factory of ITC. We'll have multiple factories, right? 160 lakh square feet of warehouse space. That's a difficult number. Some of you interested in football, that's 213 football fields put together. That's the amount of warehouse space that we utilize for moving our products around. 5 billion ton kilometers traveled annually. What is this number? So let me simplify this number for some of you find it. It is Sri Lanka's annual road freight movement. 55 times one truck can traverse Indian road network is what we traverse. 8 times you traverse the global road network. That is the complexity of our entire, transportation. We have 1 lakh truck movements per month. So the whole idea is to tell you that this is happening individually in each business. My job was to, along with people like Abhinav and Raghuram, how do we put our arms around this? How do we harmonize so that I can squeeze all the savings out? So let me now try and understand what is the complexity in the ITC supply chain. People talk about a supply chain. Now, when Britannia talks about supply chain, they only deal with biscuits, folks. I don't deal with biscuits. I deal with 60 plus different supply chains. Look at wheat. Look at aqua, right? That's frozen right from the ponds of aqua farms from, all the way from Andhra reaching you in Delhi. That's the beauty of this entire system. That's a separate, exciting supply chain, right? How do you reach frozen snacks? So if in lockdown you've not enjoyed frozen snacks, you're missing something. How do I transport juices? How do I transport coffee all the way from Coorg, right? How do I transport milk? We collect and we have a factory in Munger in Bihar. So each one of these, how do I do it in, say, a places like paper? Paper requires huge amounts of trees coming in. How do we transport trees? How do we do this? This whole thing is, adds up to a heady mix of complexity and a challenge. So how do I sit down and try and harmonize this? Can you imagine? That was a project which was thrown at me. How do you harmonize this thing? So then we said, okay, let's try and understand how complex are we? How do we move things? So I then sat down with Abhinav and his team and said, let's put down where all our raw material warehouses are. It dots. You see that thing in the northern part of India, that is all wheat warehouses. Guys and girls, if you're having Ashirvad Atta, thank this system. We've got a complex network to make sure you get the same Ashirvad Atta every day, right? Same consistency. Look at this manufacturing footprint, 200 factories dotting the entire landscape of India. We are nation oriented. We have factories only in India, right? We believe there's enough and more opportunity and economic activity available for us in India. Finished goods. So you got raw material, you got factories, and I need to move my finished goods. Look at this. Look at this footprint. Overall, I know I've tried to club everything together so that I can make the whole thing look crowded and make it sound very, very complicated. It is indeed complex. So now let me take through. Now I was talking about transportation, right? So you see all the trucks movement and all. So when I look at tobacco movement, obviously very south centric. So this shows where all tobacco is moving. Obviously it moves to the north wherever tobacco factories are there. Let's move to paper. Paper, you will notice in Hyderabad, very close to Hyderabad, you'll see the large dot, which indicates the intensity of that thing. That is where the paper factory is there. And from there, it is moving right across India to all the converters. Personal care. If you're using Engage, which you should use in abundance, especially if you're in hot and humid climate, this is how your personal care business transportation routes look like. Wheat, guys, this is Ashirvad. We buy from the mandis in Rajasthan, MP, UP, Bihar, Bengal, and then we keep them in 250 warehouses, then we move them to 30, 40 factories, and then make sure it reaches all the markets and reaches your houses. So that's the transportation routes for wheat. Oh, educational state. So if you're using stationery, can you imagine a simple thing called a classmate notebook? Look at the complex. It has to reach so many places. It's an extremely complex network. And this is our marketing and distribution, which picks up all the goods and distributes. It's a mess, but that's the whole idea of trying to reach all of you. How do we reach you? So whenever you think of us, whether you are smoking a cigarette, whether you're drinking a juice, whether you're having yippee, whatever you're doing, we need to make sure it is available at an arm's length close to you. And when I put everything together, it becomes even more complex. So this is what we are talking about, is the complexity of ITC's transportation. So what did we do with this? So I hope I'm being able to get across. Yeah, tell me.
I think it's a good time to take a small break and address some of the questions which are interesting. I will take just two questions, two or three of them, maybe not everything. Two interesting ones. The first one is about how does ITC decide? What are the factors which ITC considers before it decides to get into a new market? I think that's the first question. How does it strategically evaluate and decide about getting into a new market? That's the question from Daria Mehta.
New market or new product?
New market is basically, I think it is more about any new business opportunity, whether it's a market or a product. I think I would assume that that's what is the expectation of the question. So how do we get into a new business decision? Yeah.
Okay, fine. Let me try and attempt that, though not completely related to supply chain, but I will definitely attempt to answer it. So first of all, you will notice from our diverse portfolio that we are not hesitating in getting into new businesses. When we started chips, people laughed at us. You're taking Lay's on. We started with 0% share. When I started biscuits, people laughed at us. Why? Are you going to take on Britannia? When we started Yippee noodles, people laughed at us. So first of all, folks, there is no business which we are hesitating to put our foot into. We are right now getting into chocolates also, okay? We are saying we have the ability to create brands. We have the ability to understand customers and consumers. And we understand India, we understand the Indian consumers. We are able to understand what he or she wants. And we are able to then understand what is the basic diverse product portfolios which are being sold in India to the customer, which are the ones which are profitable, which are the ones where the customer finds that there are gaps in quality, gaps in distribution, gaps in variety, right? So we are continuously on a daily basis, we are evaluating, right? And basis a good value proposition and the ability to be either number one or two in the business. So we evaluate all that. So we are competitive. We are hardcore competitive. The whole idea is that when we get into a business, we want to be the number one. Ideally, I would like to be number one. Why should I even say number two? It doesn't count, right? The whole idea is to trump it. And then the beauty of ITC is, having got into a business, we try and build the entire value chain. That is unique about ITC. So when people talk about farm to fork, damn it, they're not talking farm to fork. They're buying from someone. I am there from farm to fork. When you're having my chips, I am into Technituber. I am into developing that potato, growing the potato, transporting the potato, manufacturing it for you, and making sure you eat it. That's my chain. I do end to end. So that is the difference between what ITC brings on board compared to anyone else. And we are continuously evaluating. So these are multiple things. At the end of it, folks, it has to make money. We're in the business to make money. I'm not there for charity. So I'm there to make money. If there's money to be made, I am in it. Next question, Raghu.
Second is there's a lot of questions around the pandemic, and I'll try to. It's very difficult to answer every question, but in a very quick nutshell, the questions are around: did we pivot into direct to D2C, direct to consumer kind of work? That's one question which is there. The second one is I think the second one can be bunched around what kind of disruptions it has created, especially in the manufacturing chain and all the lockdowns and stuff like that, and how did we kind of organize ourselves to overcome it and deliver. I think there's a third question, sub question around it, which is what are the lessons we have learned in terms of supply and the strategies. I think largely three questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Around
okay.
all of them. Yeah.
Okay. So let me quickly try and respond to them. So folks, pandemic was new to everyone. So everyone was zero on the starting line, whether it is me, whether it is HUL, whether it is Nestle, whether it is Pepsi. Okay. So the beauty with ITC was that we were into Ashirvad Atta, into essentials. So that I think the government was terrific in supporting us. We were able to open our factories in time. We were able to open our factories in time. We opened our factories within a week. And I think the wonderful thing about ITC was that we have our factories in slightly remote places. And in remote places, it is not about lives also, but also about livelihoods. Everyone is dependent on you. So the government and the government officers, all the collectors, all the IS officers, the terrific support. I think if we believe that in the private sector we work, I have not seen people like in the government. They can work double compared to us. So I think we were able to, I would proudly say we were the first off the block. We were able to, our agri-value chain continued ticking. Our manufacturing was restarted within a week because Ashirvad Atta had to be dispatched because the government realized my wheat had to be procured. So we started procuring if the first person on the field was us. So we did that. And I must tell you that our Savlon business, I think we leveraged the Savlon very heavily. The need for safety, the need for sanitizer. Our business has grown several fold. I think our entire innovation team, starting from the R&D to the manufacturing, how you overnight converted facilities which were meant for something else to this. The perfume factory for Engage was changed into the sanitizer factory. And we quadrupled our business in that 4 times. So whether it is noodles, whether it is biscuits, whether it is your any other food item, I think we have grown far more than what we would have grown in a normal year. So the lesson learned for me is that at times you need to create a crisis for yourself to be able to come out with innovation. So at times large organizations become a bit slow because the innovation cycle doesn't work. So these crises actually helps you re-energize and say, hey, even I could think of some good ideas, we can do it. So to me, the biggest learning is that I've been able to take these learnings and add speed. To talk about agility, so we will add a lot of agility and zip to our entire organization. So that's what I had to say. Raghu, may I carry on now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the only other small question was on D2C. I think we pivoted significantly into D2C, both in terms of ITC e-store as well as we created a lot of ITC stores on wheels, especially in metro locations. So there's been a lot of learning in D2C in the pandemic time. So we with our distributors have been able to get much closer to consumers and do a few things. And obviously you will see over the next few months far more initiatives in those areas. So
yeah, and
big learning for all of us in that area.
And e-commerce also has done, we've also substantially increased our footprint there. So all the Amazon and all the big basket, etc., definitely, and the frozen stuff. So that's been substantial. So anyway, let me carry on with the opportunity scoping for ITC One Supply Chain. So look at these various models. So on the top, you'll find the logistics value enhancement framework. So we leveraged all these various frameworks. What do we use? So we contacted Kearney, we contacted Boston Consulting Group, we contacted McKinsey, because we are not dealt with how to combine supply chains of 13 different disparate businesses and how to take it through one. So we used a lot of traditional methodology. We used analytical tools. So people talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning. We did use it, but at the end of the day, you have to also use your normal common sense. So a lot of common sense, a lot of these tools is what we used. And I'm not trying to get into details of this, but anyone interested in it is more than welcome to contact Raghu on this. So what are the very simply, what are the opportunities identified? How do I pay less for the same level of service? How do I use less? How do I waste less? And how do I optimize my entire network? It's very simple. So it seems so simplistic, but before we even reach that point, we debated for almost 6 months till the time we arrived at this simple framework of how do I pay less? How do I use less? How do I waste less? And how do I optimize my network? So let's see, what do you mean by pay less? So pay less means in ITC, we had different divisions. To our surprise, we found that there were different rates for the same lane. So can we harmonize amongst ourselves? Now the question you can obviously ask is that why didn't you think of it earlier? Yeah. There's always the first time. So we are very focused on making each business the best. But I'm saying I'm treating this one supply chain like someone coming and making an offering to multiple companies like Nestle, Britannia, HUL. Say, hey, I will combine all of you and I will try and get some good savings. So ITC One Supply Chain is nothing but offering its services to multiple businesses. Hey, you've been doing things well, but I can help you because there is someone else, your neighbor may be doing something better. So we said we leverage that. Then we said, I could do better price discovery. It's not necessary that even only ITC gives the rates. There may be some other companies outside. So when I go out into the market and say that I want to offer 1,600 crores worth of freight and other optimization, the number of people who come to me is very high. imagine someone who's sending his automotives all the way from Delhi to Hyderabad. He doesn't get a return load easily, right? And in transportation, waiting is waste. So if I give him something as a return load, he is willing to drop price by 15-20%. So there were opportunities available like this. Vendor, I have huge, each division will have vendors. Someone will be doing 10 crores of business with this, 20 crores with someone. When you combine that vendor, you say, hey, my friend, you're doing 100 crores worth of business with ITC. Come on now, let's squeeze something out of you. Come on, we'll give you give us some benefits, we'll give you something. Then fuel partnership. You can collaborate with Hindustan Petroleum, others, and say, look, this is the amount of spent on the fuel which all my partners are doing. Can I get a percentage out of it? Folks, you have to save rupee by rupee in this business. And that is what we were up to. Then useless. Can I, like the example I gave you, can I synergize? Can I use the synergy of backhaul in an ITC network? Within ITC network, if there is one division sending, say from Himachal, I'm getting personal care stuff all the way to Hyderabad. Hyderabad, there's a food factory. Can it send something back to the north? So you save a lot of money, and backhaul means 15% saving. Truck mix optimization. We all tend to believe that, at times we're using a certain size of a truck. At times you increase the size, you can save. Can you imagine combining two divisions, combining their products into one truck and sending it? So there are multiple, opportunities which came our way. Then, last and not the least, the wasteless. Can I do some contract structuring? Can I do some fixed and variable contracting? See, some things are dependent on demand. At times you fix the rate with the contractor, whether demand is there or not, he keeps getting a good rate. I can do a fixed thing, then during the season at times rates drop. Can I leverage that? So that came out. Improved asset utilization, trucks wait. In certain places, trucks will go and wait. The wheels of the truck have to always move if you have to make money in that business. So you have to reduce waiting time. Trucks have to run all the time. Can I increase the number of trips? Person who has spent, money on a car, very much like Uber. Uber, you'll realize someone runs the car during the daytime, someone else, his brother runs the car in the night time. Same asset being utilized 24 hours. And that is what, new startups like Revigo and all taught us. What I could send from point A to point B in 5 days, they delivered in 2 days. So their truck utilization was high, right? So all these new things came our way and we said, come on, let's leverage all of this. So back to network. So what is network? Network is, where do I position my warehouses? Where do I position my factories? And within the warehouse, can I optimize? How I even do the SKU management within the depot. So there are huge benefits in space consolidation, right? I have reduced my footprint. I've reduced about 10% of my warehouses because we realize one business is using warehouses, other is taking a fresh one when there is space available here. So I think we did a lot of optimization in that, optimal route to market, and that is what the crux of the issue is. So I'm going to now, in the last part of my presentation, take you through certain use cases so that you understand all this theory, all this thing that I've talked of in the top 3 things. How did I leverage it, right? How did I monetize it, right? I must confess that we did use consultants who are experts in this. Deep expertise comes from people like the consultants. We use A.T. Kearney for this, as a consultant to support us in this exercise. So I'm going to talk about 3 use cases. How did we do freight sourcing? So out of 1650 crores, about 800 crores was only freight, right? So how did I do freight sourcing? How did I do the factory SKU depot or DC optimization for wheat? So if you're eating Ashirvad atta, I thought I'll spend some time and tell you how the thing reaches you and how complex the chain is. Seems very simple, one bag, a little bit of atta in it, right? Very similar to what you would get in a chakki around the corner. But folks, it takes a lot more to give you consistency, right? and a lot more to make sure that whenever you want to eat your roti, Ashirwad Atta is available. And then we use certain high-end data analytics for wheat procurement. We worked with McKinsey team to use deep-end data analytics for wheat. So I will talk about these three things with you so that you understand how we leveraged our understanding and leverage the size of the pie that we had. So moving to freight sourcing. So what did we do? So look at this. So there are two parts to it. So I think it is a bit technical out here, but I couldn't avoid it. So we use negotiation strategy. So when you put 100 crores before a big transporter, he then looks at his network and says, hey, I can actually drop the cost for you. We did zero-based costing. That's what ZBC is, right? We did price benchmarking. We got quotes from others. We did lane segmentation. There's no point getting, optimizing 100% of the lanes. You can do select lanes which carry 80% of your goods and try and make that efficient. So we focus on lane segmentation. Where is I can make money? Where can I drop money? Where is there where I'm spending the maximum, right? I leverage what I talked about earlier, freight harmonization, best in ITC rates across business divisions. We did contracting. At times, it is good to do contracting for a year. At times, it is good to do spot. So at times, spot rates are very low, right? So when the agri season is off, a lot of trucks are available. So it is smart, operating if you are able to do spot. So you do a good mix depending on which commodity you are working in. And when it is, mango season in UP, for God's sake, don't make that the time when you want to take spot trucks, because that's the time when the truck rates are very high. Because mango as a produce spoils very fast. So the grower and the person who is sending it is in a hurry and they're willing to pay anything. So don't ever get caught during this season. You have to spot the season, and seasons differ in different parts of the country. Just because it is mango season in UP does not mean that something is happening in Karnataka or Andhra or Tamil Nadu. It can be very different cycles, right? You have to keep a track of the crop cycles, Kharif and Rabi, and make that. Then moving to structural changes, we did truck mix optimization, truck size up, downsize. It is not always true that when you move from an 8-ton truck to a 16 or to a 21, rates drop. Depends on the availability of trucks. In certain regions, 8-ton trucks are available in large quantities. It's best to utilize them, right? So we did that. And for us, the problem is complex because in the same truck, we have to ship God knows how many SKUs. We are in so many SKUs. I have to ship biscuits, cigarettes, chips, everything in that, right? Transporter backhaul. Can I get, like the example I gave you, cars coming to Hyderabad and your paperboard or some other things moving to the north? Supplier development, you need to work with your partners, right? And then how do you use multimodal? Railway was the key one in COVID. Railway started because there was no passenger. Railways offered outstanding rates to us, right? So, and for some of us who are aware, we also transport wheat through coastal. Coastal is cheap. So how do you mix and match road? Rake is both rail and coastal. There are seasons when even the railways gives you a bottom rate because they're wanting their as they say, malgadis, the goods trains to keep running all the time. So there are huge opportunities available, and the problem is pretty exciting to solve. So we did the largest road freight of procurement. 7 divisions were there, right? So we invited 330 suppliers. It's on the left side of your screen. 1,800 plus unique lanes were there. We did 140 negotiations, and folks, 108 million permutations were analyzed. And we received 1.5 million plus bids. That was it is easy to speak, but how to even analyze this? So we use pretty sophisticated tools like Coupa to even do the analysis for this. So that was at freight sourcing, and we did get a good amount of saving, almost 7 to 8% saving on 800 crores. So about 50 crores Not small change, folks, big change. What did we do in the next one, which is freight, this optimization for wheat? So it's a highly complex network. So wheat is not wheat, folks. There are 7 varieties of wheat. So what you eat is not a single variety, 7 varieties. We got 30 manufacturing atta plants, 250 warehouses dotting the landscape, and 3 modes of transport which I talked to you, and 8,000 origin destination pair choices. Folks, extremely difficult. So that's what we try to solve. And we utilize seasonal and spot opportunities in supply chains, and diverse warehousing. Warehousing also operates differently. There are some fixed plus variable, only variable. So there are multiple options available to us, and there are multiple landed cost components. So that is what we did to optimize our entire network. We used, so some of you are interested in, I know the Nitty people would be getting excited with this slide. So this is what we did. We did operations optimization. We fundamentally tried to optimize first on this, and then we also, in the beginning, some of you might say that this is not a global optima, but yes, we did a global optima, and then we keep doing, because things keep changing, we keep doing this local optimization on a weekly basis to make sure that we find the most optimal route from warehouse to the atta plants. Just to give you an example, so you are saying, what trash is he talking? So Dabra is a warehouse in our thing. I think it is in the north. Originally, this is how it was supplying, right? This thing. So this is what it was supplying, 20% to Chennai, 14 to Bangalore. When we optimize it, see how the whole thing changed on the right side. Same amount of supply, but you were able to optimize it and say, hey, actually, Chennai needs maximum, Chennai plant needs maximum from Dabra. So this may seem very simplistic, but requires huge amount of, crunching of data and then coming to this. So how do I look at this in a map? On the left side of the map is how this warehouse in central part of India was supplying to various factories across. On the right side is how we transformed it. See how focused it became, how simplistic it became. So anyone who's wanting to operate on that lane, which is highlighted, will get larger business for the freight supplier and a lower cost for me. That is the beauty of this entire optimization which we did. Now moving into the last bit, which is the data analytics for wheat procurement. What have we done in this? Folks, this is perhaps an extremely complex project, but I will try and put it across extremely simply to you. When we look at wheat, we are the second largest buyer of wheat after Food Corporation of India. Right? We buy about 2.5 million metric tons. There's several zeros there. So our idea is, since we are in agri-business, can I buy? Do I understand where the right variety is growing? How much will be the cost in the future? Right? I need this all predictive, right? What is going to be the supply and demand nationally and globally? What sort of regulations government will come up with? Minimum support price, open market sales scheme. You all know all the tamasha which has been going on and all the new laws which have been enacted, right? All this influences the prices of wheat. And what are the local factors and weather during sowing, harvest, post-harvest? Do you know something? We monitor around 300 such separate variables. These variables run through some complex data analytics thing, which we use certain proprietary software from McKinsey to come out with where to buy, when to buy, how much to buy. So humanly impossible to consider 300 variables. Data is voluminous, multi-layered procurement network, and there is data, real-time visibility of data is not there. So how do we predict this entire thing? Because I buy 4,000 crores worth of wheat. 1% is 40 crores for me. It's the difference between profit and loss in certain companies. So what did I do in the temporal and spatial optimization? I said temporal, when to buy, right? When to buy? That's what I solve for first. When to buy wheat? January, February, March, or April, May, June? During the season, before the season, means I need an idea as to how prices will move. Prices will depend on government policies. Government policies, then it also depend on what is the weather. So there are multiple complexities which come here. So this optimizes buying across the pre-season, season, and post-season at monthly, weekly level. We are able to predict that. We are able to do that. When to buy? Having decided that I will buy something in April, God, where do I buy it from? There are 500 mandis, 500 different places I can buy from. Where to buy from? And when I buy, it has to have for the atta factory, it should be at the least cost. I may buy wheat which is at a lower cost in a particular location, but when I transport it to a factory, it may be high. So it's not necessarily lower cost, but lower landed cost. So which mandi to buy from? So folks, this is the sort of complexity which we normally deal with. So the whole idea was to give you a slight flavor of what we do. So all this is transformed into a digital platform, which is telling us every day how much are we buying, where are we buying, what is happening. So Rahul here is nothing but a person who is working, and his dashboard tells him how much is he buying, what is the annual target in Bhopal, where is he for each variety on the right. So that is how we are progressing on this. So each person gets his dashboard. So dashboard also transforms into from each mandi, which variety, how to buy, where to buy. So pretty comprehensive methodology we use. So folks, this is what I had to say. Thank you very much. And I'm open to questions. So Marian, I will take out I will remove the presentation, and I'm available now for questions. I hope I'm keeping good time. I still have 11 minutes to go.
So you have, sir,
Sanjeev,
thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Rangras, for that wow, thunderous session. Today, I think when we open a bag of chips, bingo chips, we will know the journey it has taken to get to where I can consume it. Sir, there are a lot of questions that have come, sir. There are close to 100. What I would request is if Mr. Raghuraman could take a lot more questions for you to respond, sir, so that we can use this platform itself to address maximum number of questions if possible.
Sure. I'm game.
And we I think have a good number of participants. We would also be okay to extend it for another 10 to 15 minutes longer than now. Till
Okay.
Maybe 7:15, 7:20. So maybe, sir, you can take a lot more of the questions if you're fine with that.
Marian, you are the boss. I only obey bosses. So you tell me, I will go with you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's
Over
go.
to you, Mr. Raghu.
Yeah, thanks.
Sanjeev, even in whatever time we have, every question.
Am I visible to the participants?
Yes, you are.
Okay,
And,
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, Sanjeev, even whatever time we extend also, there's only so much you can answer because it's a full barrage of questions, and I really appreciate the audience for the amount of interest you have in all this. And having said that, I'll try to summarize maybe some 3-4 very large themes, and then we can maybe answer a few after that if you have time. So Sanjeev, the first one I would put forward is there's a lot of questions around how is it in terms of just okay. There are a lot of questions around just 1 minute. The entire piece of digitization, and how do we do data and analytics? How do we understand something which is quite complex, and all those kind of questions which are to what extent do we leverage data and analytics, and something around the COVID and the entire digitization journey. How is ITC on to that, and how is ITC approaching digitization? I think there are 2 large questions around this if you may want to address.
Yeah. So first of all, there is no simple answer to digitalization. Okay. First of all, we have to recognize that in this day and age, if you don't digitalize, you will perish. You will perish, right? So not adhering to these, because digitalization, according to me, has to come with one very important thing called speed and agility. So if you look at what Amazon does, what Walmart does, what all these other people do, as they say, they're building moats, and those moats are very, very difficult to cross. So obviously, they are in the game for a longer time. So at one point of time, one would say that Amazon was a partner, but whilst it is a partner in delivering, it is also a competitor, because I have my own distribution system. I have to reach that one panwala in the remotest village, right? So that is my strength. I already have that. So to me, digitalization is two things. One is we talk about hardware, software. It's all about the culture of an organization. How do we bring about a change by which we try and embrace speed? And I must confess that we are a company of 100-year-old. We also have our slight, baggages. So we take some time to move. But I would say in the last 2 years, we realized that to survive, we will have to embrace. So when I talk about that, we have to take partners in that. So as I speak, I talked about, I worked with A.T. Kearney, I worked with McKinsey. They bring in top talent to help us out. In fact, all our Wheat Data Analytics runs out of Denver, Colorado, out of the huge set of people who work there. I've got 400 people working on multiple projects. So we need to leverage that, right? Then the other way is what we are doing in perhaps our paper plant. Paper plant also we're working with consultants like McKinsey, how to streamline the entire process. Maybe 1,000 parameters which are governing the production of paper, right? And a small little change in parameter, a 1% difference in yield can give 50 to 100 crores fill up to my bottom line there. So the whole idea is understand the entire business need, understand the consumer. I would say in this entire journey of digitalization, am I connected to the consumer? My consumers are people like you, very impatient. When you look at a mobile, you want to press and you want the delivery to be done, right? So how am I connected with them? How fast can I produce? How can I respond fast to the demands which are taking place or the changing consumer needs? Okay, how do I keep the pipeline of new products ready? So, whilst it may appear to you as this is not digitalization, this is digitalization. Digitalization to mean speed and agility in the entire process of organizations. Speed of decision making, speed of processing, robotic process automation, right? There's organizations still carrying on with approval of, vouchers and checks. How do we bring in automation there? So the whole idea is that the whole culture needs to change. The whole organization needs to move forward. So that's a very simplistic way of responding, but each thing takes on a unique perspective when I talk to each business. So digitalization in a manufacturing would mean more of using Industry 4.0, right? For me in the market, when I'm with marketing and distribution, it would be, am I capturing demand, live demand? What is happening? Am I able to capture that and then feed it back so I know how the consumer is responding? Am I doing sentiment analysis based on certain inputs which are coming in? So we have pretty sophisticated cells in foods who are in our foods business and other consumer facing business who are perpetually checking out what is happening to the consumer, how is the trend going? What is Twitter saying about this? What is Facebook saying about this product when we are launching? So all these are things which are happening. I may not be, aware of some of them. So I may be limited by my exposure and imagination in responding to that question. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Just a small addition to the participants. I think almost all the use cases which were explained today, if you're able to follow, are heavily leveraged on data and analytics, without that we can't even do even one of them. So if you're talking about 100 million of combinations to be analyzed in transportation optimization, or in the entire wheat network with the 3-layer multi-integer linear programming. None of these happen without a very, very complex data and analytics framework which is supporting it. So just to leave the message behind on this topic. We can of course discuss endlessly, and I think this journey will continue in a very big way. The second question, a large theme, almost 7-8 questions around it, was around the concept of how do we handle the product portfolio we have is very, very different, and that how do we actually organize our strategy in such a way that we cater to such a wide portfolio of products, especially in the supply chain and the distribution system. I think that's the question which many questions can actually be summarized into this one large theme. Try to address
this is what makes the whole thing exciting, right? How do you mix and match, and how do you reduce the entire cost? So obviously, I'll give you an example. When you take atta, atta can perhaps, you can't load a truck fully with atta, right? Because I think it will violate the not the density, the weight norm. So how do you layer the truck with the bottom? So there are people who work on how to optimize every single truck. So when I have an order for a particular place, so there are models which run, which say, okay, you had an order of so much of atta, so much of cigarettes, so much of chips, so much of shampoo, so much of this. So the optimizer run to say, okay, perhaps this is how you can optimize it, and this is how you should stack it into the truck. What goes first, what goes out, that is based on A, it should not break, B, when it is going from point to deliver, it should be last in, first out. So it is delivering also along the route. So I would say that, have you been able to crack everything? I would say no. We are still, I think there is a lot more. So have Raghu and team been able to squeeze the lemon out? I think the lemon is only half squeezed. I think you got another 100 crores which Raghu needs to deliver in the next 1 or 2 years in savings in this area, because there are opportunities lying there. There are opportunities. So savings is a wrong word, because savings means that I've spent extra. No. These are all opportunities. How do we identify opportunities and how do we do it? And by the way, every day the demand is changing. Every day it is dynamic. So you may plan for something today, but tomorrow the demand is changed. And by the time you plan for that, you have already introduced half a dozen new products. As I speak, I've got about a dozen new products ready to be launched in the market. Because all you people, millennials and all, want to attend your classes and you want food to be delivered on your table and you want quick food. So we are also into that game, quick food. Put hot water and you have, hey presto, it is ready for you. So we are also innovating. Frozen foods, how do we do it? So we are constantly on the search for this. And not to forget, I look after sustainability. How do I make sure that I remove plastics? I remove multi-layered packaging from it, so that whilst on this path of delivering, I'm also simultaneously keeping an eye on my dashboard of sustainability and make sure that I move firmly on that and don't crowd the world with plastics, etc. Yes.
So the second theme was all around segmentation and how do we kind of handle a very, very different product portfolio. The third theme which I picked up, which was across a few questions, was around eChoupal. Where is eChoupal going and how is it actually leveraged to deliver competitive advantage, both to ITC as an organization and also some things around how are the farmers benefiting from it? Is it able to help us to directly connect us to the farmer and create new ways of working, which actually is a win-win? There's a set of themes around of questions around the theme of eChoupal for you to consider.
Okay, fine. I will take that question gladly, because I've been part of the team which has done the eChoupal 4.0. See, eChoupal started 20 years ago, right? It was a digital platform then, but now things have changed. So let me explain to you briefly eChoupal 4.0 and the conceptual design behind it. It is all based on trust, transparency, and fairness, right? That's the model. So the farmer needs to get trust, transparency, and fairness in anything. Farmer is perhaps the biggest entrepreneur in our country with the maximum risks, stacked against it. Let me assure you, not one of you would have the guts to say, I'm moving into farming from tomorrow. It is so unpredictable, right? So farmer is the core of our entire eChopal, where we, whilst our Prime Minister talks about doubling farm income, our objective is to also move towards that and give him something extra. He is completely in a credit squeeze. He's perpetually owing things to people. He's perpetually in debt. So I think so we are linked with almost 4 million farmers. So if you build a network of trust, fairness, and transparency, farmers starts believing you. If you start believing, so you see in the value chain between IDC and the farmer, if the chain is built on these core principles, then I can supply him inputs like seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, etc. I can buy stuff from him. I can help him market stuff of this. Now with the government having opened up and moved away from mandis, can I market stuff to him? For him, because he doesn't know. Market linkages are not existing. I have to help him market the stuff. That's the biggest issue. What to grow? Because this year the price is high, the farmer tends to grow more of that stuff and he loses out because the produce is more, and then you tend to perhaps overproduce, and if there's overproduction, the prices drop. So this is a vicious cycle which the farmer goes through. So imagine, so what am I trying to build? I'm trying to build this chain of fairness, trust and transparency. On that, I will make sure I supply him good materials. When I get the materials from someone, I will make some money in that. You are leveraging my trust, transparency with the farmer. I help the farmer grow. I help him harvest. I will bring in all new startups who want to send drones in for doing, or they want to use any robotics for sensing, your IoT devices for checking. So ultimately the farmer is linked with me from end to end, and I will help him sell stuff. So I'll buy for IDC. We anyway buy quite a bit. I get to know what to buy, when to buy, which is a good quality. So I leverage that for IDC. Right, I get the right variety, and then I can also help the farmer sell. Now, having established this thing of trust, transparency, and fairness, can you imagine? I can actually sell anything to the farmer. I can sell education, health, credit, warehousing, anything. And sell to the farmer, give him services. So you're creating a pipeline for the future. You're creating something by which in that pipeline you could perhaps sell any service, including entertainment, for God's sake, anything you can do. So that is the visualization for the future for eChopal. eChopal could become the future Amazon for rural India.
Very good. So Sanjeev, I'll try to answer the simple question. There are some questions around omni-channel and saying that for FMCG companies, omni-channel is a recent trend, and there are a few more questions around this theme. Absolutely. So we have to be wherever the consumer is and wherever the customer is. So omni-channel is a big trend. So there is something around D2C, there is a eB2B, and then the conventional retail, and of course the modern trade and driving. So I think our strategy or our approach to the whole thing would always be to be present wherever the consumer is and drive consumption and growth both for the consumers and for the economy as a whole. So we would obviously be present in all the channels, and as we speak, there are quite a few strategic actions which are being driven in all these spaces, which helps us drive our footprint further in all these areas and make a difference. Equally, India is obviously one of the most complex channels. With a very, very strong, Kirana network as well, and companies which are traditional companies which have actually been a part of the Kirana network, which has helped in even creation of the network right from the beginning, have a very, very deep footprint embedded with a lot of trust which they've earned over the decades. So I guess it's a very, very evolving space, and this is a space where a company like ITC would be doing significant investment and the development of the entire market. I think that is one theme which was coming very repeatedly. Second one thing, Sanjeev, again, you have been a part of a lot of these conversations around this, which is around Farm Bill in itself. Questions around, what is ITC's point of view, and how is this going to unlock opportunities? Various questions around it, which is around Farm Bill and how does it actually help. I thought I should just open it.
Yeah, that's my area. That's just purely my area. So there are 3 farm bills. What did the Farm Bill basically do? Right? It simply, first of all, let me tell you, the Mandi system started in 1885. Those damn Britishers started it because they wanted to buy cotton. They didn't want anyone to sell cotton anywhere, so they started the Mandi system. So they could buy the cotton, send it to UK, process it there, and then sell us the finished goods. So Mandi system has perpetuated over decades, right? And so that is the only place where the farmer is to sell. Why would I travel 50 or 100 kilometers to come and sell? I decide what I will sow, but you decide where I will sell and how much will I sell for. Right? Give me the opportunity. So it is nothing but unshackling. It is what happened to the Indian industry in 91-92 with our finance minister Manmohan Singh removing the license Raj. Let me decide. So I am allowing the farmer to decide. Boy, you decide where you want to sell, how much you want to sell. So all this noise which you hear, it's all obviously there are people who are with vested interests. But for the country, I think it has been a complete unshackling from the past. And I believe that maximum opportunities, if maximum startup opportunities have come to me in the last 3 to 4 months all around agri. Agri sector has huge investments coming in from the startup world, and there are people doing amazing work. Believe me, it is trillions worth of dollars worth. And every day one new startup is chatting with us to what can we do. So I believe as we go forward, new business models will adopt. All right. Don't look at India as one. Look at India as several small Indias put together. Right. That is a mistake we tend to make. You take either UP or Bihar or Andhra. We are larger than most, countries in Europe. Try and work there. There itself, there are enough opportunities to unshackle, create how you buy from the farmer, how you help them sell their produce. So there is margin to be made along the entire line. And there are new models which are coming up where people are building profitable models. Farmer is also gaining. Now services coming to his doorstep. I will help you grow a good produce so that it is uniform, higher quality, higher produce. I will now determine what you buy as a seed, etc. So when someone comes to sell seed, I have removed the dealer. The dealer was at times the person recommended. We have just unshackled the farmer. It appears a bit in a fluid situation today because things are evolving. It takes 5 years to 6 years for a particular thing. Just because the law has been passed doesn't mean tomorrow people will jump at it. There are enough experiments happening. FPOs, farmer producer organizations are coming. How do we collectivize farmers? Why should Mandi be the collectivized? How do we collectivize farmers? Some of them are becoming very, very powerful. We are leveraging that. So I think if some of you are keen to work in some agri organizations, I will salute you because India needs you people. We need to move and we need to export a lot. Why should Netherlands, that smallest country, be the second largest exporter of food, of agricultural produce? Why? A country with barely anything, only on greenhouses. We are equipped, we can make it happen. I think we need to help this agri revolution happen in India. Raghu.
Then there was a question around, I'll take one question which is coming in various questions. I'm trying to summarize this. It's about what are the lessons of supply chain design, and various questions all about supply chain design and how is it done. I think that's an area where I I've done all my work on. Very simple. So first of all, what have we learned in the pandemic about supply chain design? I think, flexibility is a king. It's very important to have resilience built into the supply network. So there are various concepts around resilience and how do you actually de-risk your supply chain. Just for me, I think what I'm sharing, like what Sanjeev said, ITC was probably first off the block when the opened up because of various reasons. One is being present in essential commodities as well as having the very deep integration with the government system, and they were very keen to support, and so trust built over the years. It helped us to move forward. So just to give you a sense of numbers first of all, and then we can understand what are we talking about. I guess by the time we were about 4 to 6 weeks into the pandemic, we were already at about 6 weeks actually after the lockdown. We were already at about 70% levels, and while we know that some segments were not even switched on and many were actually galloping, so we were almost at about 70% level within 4 weeks of the pandemic, and we are almost at full capacity within 2.5 months of the entire pandemic. So therefore, the rate of recovery has been very, very fast. So like what Sanjeev was saying, our factory network is an extremely resilient network with a very judicious blend of multi-factory manufacturing connected with the demand clusters to which we supply, and so therefore that helps us get the supply side resilience, which is about where we are located. The second is the way we our sheer presence, 1,600 crore logistics network. It actually is a kind of like what Sanjeev was saying. It's as good as a huge 3PL or a transport company. So therefore, that scale and the deep relationships built over a lot of years, and the technology we have, the ability to source trucks quite quickly. I think we have been able. And also, I think it helped that many other parts of the economy were just not doing well at all. So therefore, we could therefore leverage all of that as well. Having said that, obviously the lead times went up, and you cannot help it because there were no borders, there were more blockages, more borders, and it was more challenging. So therefore, I think there was a lot of work done by the entrepreneurs in the country, in the transport network, to help us unlock all of it. So the more important strategic conversation here is therefore resilience. How do you think about resilience in your supply chain design, and how do you build it into the underlying design of your supply chain in itself, so that are you single location sourced, are you multi-location sourced? And there are some products which are only single location sourced because of various reasons. Maybe it's an agri commodity which is grown. Chili is grown only in one particular place, and that's from where you have to serve all over the country. So you look at the different kind of a solution for the various, wherever possible, bring in resilience. Wherever it is not multi-source and all that, wherever not possible, then get into a different kind of a business continuity plan for that. And equally, when you're building supplier relationships, whether it is in the transport market or whether it is in the supply market, get the right balance between scale and agility. Yeah? So therefore, in some cases, we go for single huge suppliers with whom we can manage all kinds of things. In cases, we work very closely with them to build resilience into their models. And in many other cases, we keep a flexible solution so that we can always go on a kind of whatever, somebody would call it as a 60-30-10 strategy. Somebody would call it as a 70-20-10 strategy. So where do you consolidate for scale and get a benefit? Where do you actually want to keep trying new things in order to keep, refreshing your current supplier base and build in the capabilities which are relevant for the future? So it's a very integrated thinking process. I think, as you get in and as you all build your careers further, you will understand how these things are done together. But suffice it to say that strategy in itself is very, very deeply integrated. I think, of course, we have seen some areas where there are chinks in our armor, and I think we will further be working on all of this. I think that is one thing I would like to answer. So we have already taken 15 minutes more.
Yeah, I think we are running. I think Marian wants the mic back with her. So Marian, yes, back to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. I think I've loved it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great.
Mr. Rangras, Mr. Raghuraman, thank you very, very much for your time and for those very valuable insights. I'm sure the students today have benefited from it. It also is very heartwarming to see the kind of string of questions that have come, and I'm glad that we were able to extend and address those questions so that the students can use this platform to learn further. Ladies and gentlemen,